everybody. I'm Barrett Bogue. I'm the Vice President for Public Relations and Chapter Engagement at Student Veterans of America. And I have a great role and a fantastic job here at SVA. My role is to tell your story and to make sure that we have healthy and growing chapters in colleges and universities across the country, of which many of you are returning back to school, and we have a little over 1,500 chapters in the U.S.
And hi, I'm Lauren Augustine. I'm the Vice President of Government Affairs here at SVA. I work with Congress and the executive branch to make sure that we're supporting the mission of to, through, and beyond higher education for all student veterans.
So Lauren and I just want to spend a couple minutes today kind of breaking down two terms that you may have seen in the news lately or on your social media feed. One is borrower's defense, and the other is gainful employment, which both of those may not make a lot of sense on the surface, but they actually have a pretty critical impact to our chapter members. And so, Lauren, and certainly in your role, I know you're doing a lot of work in borrower's defense. So if you could just kind of break that down. I'm a former Marine, so if you could break that down Barney style for me, I'd
Sure,
really
the Army's here to help.
Thank you.
Borrower's defense is a process through the Department of Education that allows students who have been defrauded by schools to have their federal student loans forgiven. There's a proposed rule to change the process that's been in use for a few years now. And it really is detrimental to students and guts the process and is quite harmful to students who have been defrauded. The new proposed rule would require students to already be in default, which has a whole host of concerns for student veterans, one of them being that's a threat to any security clearance that anybody might have. It also allows institutions to do something called, or compel students to be a part of forced arbitration. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been told that's bad, and it is. I know it is. Mm-hmm. And then the third sort of noteworthy thing about this proposed rule is that it also puts the burden of proof on the student to prove that the school intentionally misled them, which is a whole new level of burden that just really is sort of, I don't see how anybody could accomplish that. So we're really just setting students up for failure and setting up our federal student loan system to be quite taken advantage of.
Yeah, it really kind of flips the script on how the programs are incentivized by institutions, and in some ways they're much more likely to mislead a student veteran. And if you are victimized by it, then, like Lauren said, it's up to you to prove that the school did it, which
intentionally did it.
Yeah,
right.
It intentionally did it, which is a really backwards way of handling the burden of proof, especially in the American legal system today. So these are things that if you are victimized, and we know people who have been victimized personally that play a very critical role, not only in your educational journey, but just also in your financial welfare. I mean, you could go into debt, and you could go into even further debt just trying to prove the school did this to you. Exactly.
For me, the idea that you have to be in default to even try to go through the process is really troubling from just a lifelong financial steadiness perspective.
Sure.
That's troubling.
Yeah, and understanding that for our community and the people that we serve as student veterans or non-traditional students, they're much more likely to be married, to have a family, and to have a full or part-time job. You add a going into default into that, and your world just gets much more complicated and needlessly so. So there's definitely an interest in how this may impact you. For gainful employment, I mean, it's kind of a weird name, but what it really means is that it's a requirement where a career technical school is supposed to report out on how likely somebody is to find a job or be employed as a result of completing that program, and how it impacts you as a student veteran. With that being repealed, it means that these schools don't have to do that anymore. There's no requirement for them to report out on whether or not their program is successful or does what it's advertised to do. That's a big concern for us and for student veterans and chapter members, because what it really does is it gives these these schools licensed to say whatever they want to entice you to enroll. And where I see a big concern is with your GI Bill benefits. You did a lot to earn those benefits. We call them your hard-earned education benefits, and rightfully so. If you use them at this school and then you don't get a job, or let's say the school has misled you, you actually don't get those number of months of entitlement back. They're gone forever.
Right. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that if you do feel strongly about these proposed rules, there's a way to make your voice heard. There are open comment periods on the proposed rules before they make a final decision. And then as you go back to school and as you think about how these things might impact you or your fellow student veterans, think seriously about making your voice heard on those issues.
Absolutely. I think that's fantastic advice. And we know that veterans have been fierce advocate of policy changes for almost a century now, right? With the bonus army in D.C., which eventually led to the GI Bill after World War II. And these issues are no less important, not only for us, but for the people and service members and veterans who come after us and the next generation. So if you're passionate and if this issue affects you or your battle buddy personally, by all means, get involved. Send us an email at contact@studentveterans.org, or just comment right here on this video or on our Facebook page or Twitter handle. And in any other way, especially as you're going back to school, by all means, we want you to get involved in SVA programming. So there's lots of different ways to get involved at SVA, and certainly in becoming much more aware of these issues. And lastly, if you have any follow-up questions or clarifying questions, just ask, and we'd be happy to answer it in the comments.
Have a great start to the semester, and see you at NatCon.
See you at NatCon. Thanks, everybody.